perspectives, radical inclusion, and knowing that issues of justice and equity shape everything we do. With a special awareness for those who have been historically marginalized, we welcome all of every race, class, ethnicity, immigration status, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious background, mental and physical ability and disability. We welcome your whole self, your family, into worship as we build a community of caring and courage and hope. This is a special morning this morning where we welcome 5 new members into our congregation. And if you are visiting and interested in learning more about us, we are so glad you're here, and there will be a get to know UUCP gathering right after service if you want to learn more about us. Our opening words this morning are from the Reverend Mark Bellatini, a UU minister in Columbus, Ohio. For religion to be significant, it has to provide more than the comforts of community. It also has to provide opportunities for deepening, for what I call spiritual growth, and for the casting down of false images and stereotypes which hurt us all. A good religion has to open us to the real diversity of our modern world. For our work as liberal religious people is not to be competitive with others and to find ways to supersede others, but rather to find ways to supersede ourselves, to grow beyond our limitations and our constrictive boundaries, each and every one of us. Diversity, you see, must not end up being some sort of feel-good slogan, a word we keep in our back pocket to make us feel like we're broad-minded. Diversity is a gift, but it cannot be a gift unless it is received. It is only received when there are hands and hearts open enough to receive it, and the opening of fists into welcoming hands and welcoming hearts is our spiritual work. I invite you to grab a candle or a chalice or something from your home as we recite our covenant and light our chalice together. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to share our strength in fellowship, thus do we covenant.
Good morning. I am your worship associate this morning, Gary Ezzell, and let me introduce our worship team. Our Director of Children's Ministries, Katie Resendez. And our pianist, Mary Coda, is also serving as our hymn leader today, while our music director, Benji Messer, takes the week off. And of course, you've met our minister, Reverend Christine Dance. Behind the scenes, running AV, we have Carol Binwell. Brad Chapman is our chat chaplain today. Our chat is open. You can chat with everyone or just to the panelists running the service. As always, we invite you to check into UUCP on social media with the hashtag UUAnywhere. I have a few announcements about the life of our community. Now, all of these announcements can be found on our weekly online newsletter, Compass. You can sign up for Compass on our website, phoenixuu.org. Storytelling has been something people have been doing during long winter nights since we humans first started communicating with each other through language. We want to continue the tradition on Saturday, January 30th, with Adventure Tales, a radically inclusive evening. To help you tell your story, we have arranged for professional storytellers to present a free storytelling workshop via Zoom on Wednesday, December 2nd at 12 p.m. noon, and Saturday, December 12th at 11 a.m. You only need to sign up for one. I've signed up for one. And this isn't a commitment to tell your story. You will find the sign-up link in Compass and on the UUCP website. We would love to hear your story. A big thank you to everyone who made donations of blankets and winter clothing for the Navajo Nation. We took 2 big carloads up last week and will probably do another trip in December. And finally, we are collecting our offering virtually, just like during our service when we're together. We ask you to be generous in your giving to support the mission of this beloved community. You can text UUCP to 73256. You can donate through the website, or you can send in an old-fashioned check. For all that you give to our congregation, we are so grateful. And now, to lead our opening hymn, we are grateful for the talents of Mary Cota.
Good morning, UUCP. We'll be opening with a classic, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Come, come, whoever you are, wonder, worshiper, lover of living, losses, no care, woman of despair. Come yet again, come, come, whoever you are, wonder, worshiper, lover of living, mercy's no care, woman of despair. Come yet again, come.
Good morning. I'm Katie Resendez, and I'm the Director of Children's Ministry at UUC Phoenix. Okay, so I like to think about fairy tales and think about what they're trying to tell us and what else they might be telling us and all those other pieces. And I've been thinking about The Princess and the Pea, right? So it's this girl who, for some reason, she's at a castle in the middle of the night and says that she's a princess, and they don't believe her. Which, I mean, if you say you're something, what else but the title? That's a whole other thing. And the way the queen tests her is to have her sleep upon a huge pile of mattresses and puts a tiny pea underneath. And the fact that the princess tosses and turns all night and barely sleeps at all proves that she's a princess because she could feel the pea under the huge piles of mattresses. Okay, so 1, she's a sensitive sleeper and she notices things and she's not comfortable with things and, you know, what people want her to just push by. Okay. Also, this huge pile of mattresses. Have you ever slept on top of more than one mattress? Can you imagine 2, 3, 4? It stops being comfortable and you just feel smothered. Whoa, folded in all that softness, and there's something that's automatically uncomfortable about it. And your brain is like, I know I'm supposed to feel good and peaceful and restful because this is soft and I should sleep, but it's really not that comfortable at all. And then on top of that, to have this piece stuck down there, and I know the queen's out to get me, and what do I do? And then at the end of the story, we all feel proud because the princess wasn't tricked. Okay, so you have to be the princess. Don't be tricked. There's a pile of mattresses we're all sleeping on. And some of us have known about it and we've been talking about it, we've been thinking about it, but we have to keep remembering that there's not just one pea, there's a whole bunch of dried legumes in that pile of mattresses, and we got to keep remembering them. Katie, what the heck are you talking about? What I mean is our history lessons. If I said names like Abraham Lincoln and George Washington and Albert Einstein and made this huge list, you'd be able to go, oh yeah, I know who that is. I pretty much know who that is. I know who that is. But there are lists we have that we don't know who they are. Like if I were to go through and say Mal Cutpurse, Albert Cashier, Weewa, Harry Allen, Christine Jorgensen, Lucy Hick Anderson, Renee Richards, you might know one or two of those, but they don't all pop to mind, and they're certainly not on our dollar bills. You see, all of these names are of our trans siblings throughout time who've done amazing historical deeds, piloted planes across spans that people never thought could be flown across, amazing top athletes, political leaders, performers, actors, all sorts of things. I've told you all about Billy Tipton before, who's one of my favorite musicians, who lived his life as a performer, was very well known, was married multiple times. And then when he died, there was a huge scandal because they found out that he had been assigned female at birth. But we forget all these names. The thing is, as the people you are, as we are committed to that first principle of inherent worth and dignity of every person, I know that you know the names of a few historic, important, famous transgender siblings of ours. I know a few. The person sitting in the room next to you knows the name of a few. But what we have to do is start teaching one another. Who do you know? Who are those pieces of history that are really, really important, who did phenomenal things, but are lost in that pile of mattresses? We have to make sure that we take out those beans, those peas, whatever they may be, and look at them and say, oh yeah, this one was important too, and this one made it big. I don't know, maybe we need a whole new bed. Get rid of all of those mattresses, get rid of all those peas, and look through our history and really say, who are the people that we're leaving behind? Who are the people that we're forgetting? Who are the people that we're like, oh yeah, I know that one, and make sure we know that 20. When we talk about Transgender Day of Remembrance that happened this week, we think about the people who have died and suffered in the work of liberation. And I don't want us to forget that or stop doing that. But I also want us to remember the victories, the successes, the pillars of community that held these identities so that we don't erase them. So that we remember to be that princess and to wake up in the morning and go, oh wait, that history book was forgetting a whole lot of things. Because whether or not these people labeled themselves as transgender, they were revolutionaries. They were gender revolutionaries. And all those times that you think, I'm so glad that women can wear pants. I'm so glad that men can cry in public. We have to look to those revolutionaries and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank them, remember them, hold them in our hearts, and learn the history. You have a homework assignment from me today, which is to go out, do some research, and find history about one transgender individual who was important to history. Just one. Post it on your social media. If you're not a social media person, tell a friend. But that is your homework. We have to keep remembering, or else we'll forget and we'll be stuck in that super uncomfortable bed. Remember that you are so very loved and so, so very powerful.
It It is time for a very important ritual in the life of our congregation, a new member ceremony, and it is our first time doing it online. So we are counting on a lot of technology working here. So new members and membership team and board president, please turn on your cameras and stay muted and get your roses. For those of you who are on YouTube, you may not see all the faces, but I promise you that are there. Those of you who are on Zoom, we hope that you can see everyone. We would at this time like to welcome all of our new members and their families who are here with us for this service to take part of the ritual. There are short bios of each of our new members on the website, and Brad will put that in the chat, and there will be a link in Compass for them next week. I encourage you all to read about these wonderful, amazing people and get to know them over the next coming weeks and months, and particularly to make a special effort to say hi to them, since we can't be seeing them in person the same way. Over to you, Johnny.
My name is Johnny Lifshitz. I'm the president of our UUCP Board of Trustees, and it's an honor to represent them. A few weeks ago, we had the honor of installing ordinating a new minister, and the bringing in of new members to our community is another way in which we enrich all of our lives. It's an honor to welcome all of our newest or returning members to celebrate their decision to join our UUCP community. Each of them has signed our membership book and have made a commitment of their time, their talents, and their financial support of this congregation.
I'm Jenny Jones, and I'm on the membership team. To all of you, I say welcome. We encourage you to share with us your creative thoughts, your life experiences, your questions, and your dreams about how we can make this a supportive yet challenging community together.
It is a joy to welcome each of you as a member into our community. Becoming a member of this congregation is an important step, but it is only a first step. I encourage you all to grow your religious life and to explore and share your unique gifts. New members, please unmute yourselves. You'll be reciting the words on the screen. Please know, everyone, that it's going to sound totally messy due to Zoom, and that is perfect and such a metaphor for our times. New members, will you journey together with us, sharing the joys and the responsibilities of membership?
Yes.
Yes, joyfully join ourselves to this congregation and its mission and its vision, and we understand that membership comes with respect, opportunity for growth, and the opportunity for growth.
Joining you
Look forward to joining you.
We look forward to building a stronger
community.
Build a stronger community.
Thank you, new members. I hear that as a symphony to my naive ears. You can go ahead and mute yourselves now. Members of the congregation who are with us this morning, we ask that you say the words after this particular slide at home. We won't be able to hear you, but we know that you're going to be saying it. And if you want to text yes in the chat or make it, that will make it a little bit more interactive. So Carol, thank you. Please read the slides. Oh, sorry. Will you reach out to these people in friendship, including them in our activities and our fellowship? Will you walk with them on their religious journey? Will you be open to their unique gifts and perspectives? Will you extend a warm welcome to each of them, remembering that each of you was once a new member? Please go ahead and read the slide.
And Johnny and Jenny, you guys can read it with them.
Great idea. Ready, Jenny? Yes. We join our strengths, talents, and commitment with yours. You are a part of us, and we are a part of you.
I was imagining the same cacophony there on the other side. Now, a big part of our new member ritual is having our children participate. So children of the congregation, hello, this is your chance. So get up close to your screen or the TV. These are the new members of our congregation. They, like you, represent our future and our possibility. Will you receive them into our community, showing them how things work around here and encouraging their involvement and growth? If so, please say loudly, very loudly in your home, yes, and you can type in the chat yes if you want to. So at this point, I'm imagining a whole bunch of children saying yes. As we welcome you, new members, we give each of you a rose. I like to use roses in both new member and child dedication rituals, but the roses are slightly different. For the child dedication, we remove the thorns, representing how we want to protect the children during their formation. But for the new members, we keep the thorns on because the work of the community is both beautiful and challenging. We do not promise that there will not be bumps in the road, but we promise that we will be here to do it together. We are so grateful to Jenny Jones, who went and delivered roses to all of our new members so that they could partake in them. Ours is a shared ministry to help each other find meaning in life and to build a just and compassionate life and world, working to fulfill the vision and mission of the congregation. As we say your name, please hold up your rose that we sent as we hold it up here. It's the closest we have to giving it to you. And feel free to wave and say hi to you. So in alphabetical order, I introduce you Rachel Arbone. Hi, Rachel. Welcome. Kathy Kopak. Hi, Kathy, and welcome. Judy Mawiney. Katie Pacelli Klinger. And Cheryl Thomas.
Everybody.
Welcome. So new members, feel free to unmute yourselves, wave and say hi. All new members, let's give a big wave. And everyone, let's chat our welcome to them all and
Thank
do
you
a big
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
so
you.
delighted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you, everyone. You can turn off your videos and turn off your mute. Welcome, new members. We're so glad that you're here.
Something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there. He's telling me I've got to go in. Stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. speaking their minds. They give so much resistance from behind. Stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going. Field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and carrying signs, saying hooray for our side. It's time to stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Paranoia strikes deep into your heart, it will creep. It starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line, the man comes to take you away. Stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going.
Wow, Bob, way to rock it. Thank you very much. It is the time when we share the joys and sorrows of our community. Being together, it is good to share, to support each other, and to connect. Please write any joys or sorrows or what you want our community to know about. Put your name at the beginning, please, so I know who it is. And if you want it to be private only to me and not to be shared, please put the word private at the beginning and send it to just panelists so I can hold it in my heart. While you are entering your joys and sorrows, let me mention several in our world. As Katie was talking about, November 20th was Transgender Day of Remembrance. This was started in 1999 by transgender advocate Gwendolyn Ann Smith as a vigil to honor the memory of Rita Hester, a transgender woman who was killed in 1998. And we have come together to grieve those losses every year since. At least 37 transgender and gender nonconforming people have been killed this year, and at least 350 worldwide, although we know that that number is very understated. We are facing an epidemic of violence, primarily targeting Black and Latina trans women, who were the founders of the LGBTQ rights movement and continue to lead us today. Our mourning for those lost to violence in our community did not begin with Rita, and it will not end until we become an anti-trans bias and racism, until we overcome all of that through education, and we enact policies that will protect trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming people in all areas of our lives. We must commit ourselves to this work so that one day there will be no more names to read. I want to note that the US marked a tragic marker with 250,000 Americans dead of COVID-19. And we know that number will be dramatically increasing in the next few weeks. It is hard to grasp this level of suffering, but I hope you will honor them through action, staying home, wearing masks, and keeping distance. I know many of you, as well as us, have radically scaled down or canceled your Thanksgiving plans, which is hard. And for those of you who are celebrating Thanksgiving in any way this year, I do want to remind you to take some time to decolonialize your Thanksgiving. Tell your family members, over Zoom, of course, the real story of Thanksgiving, about the colonial invaders and how they brought disease and war and death to the native indigenous inhabitants to this world. The stories of cooperation are whitewashed, and that whitewashes the genocide that exists. We are the people who notice these things. There is lots of room to be grateful and to give thanks in so many ways, but we do not need to perpetuate a false narrative in order to have gratitude in our hearts. And I know the holidays are difficult and that we will be separate for. I am putting a little bug in your ear that we are working hard to have a drive-by holiday pickup after service on Sunday, December 6th, with a little goodie bag that we can have to make your holidays a little brighter. Put it in your calendar. So now we turn to the joys and sorrows of our community. Here we go. Kathy Kopak says to our brand new members, send positive energy to all the nurses and healthcare providers who are yet again under tremendous struggles caring for others. Bill Snowden and Joan Gale says, we shared pumpkin bread during service in honor of our traditional bread Sunday. Yes, that is one of the many things that is a challenge. Marshall Valentine has a sorrow. Please keep a friend and fellow Phoenician, Edgar Soto, in your hearts. He is still suffering now over 50 days in intensive care from an auto accident. Gary Ezzell says, we will be celebrating our grandson's 4th birthday via Zoom today. How awesome. Mary Coda says, a joy. Frank, Aaron, and I are excited to be welcoming a baby girl next month. She is due right around Christmas. We are all so excited for your family, Mary. Sarah Montgomery says, after 3 weeks with no children, childcare, my wonderful in-laws have agreed to look after Hannah on weekdays. So much gratitude. People were never meant to work on a computer and parent at the same time. Isn't that the truth? I have a sorrow, but I don't know who it's from, about COVID and the challenge of that. And I want to talk about our wildflower folks at the end of all this. I'm going to give you all a special welcome. Amanda Rogers, who is a teacher, says, my school district's COVID numbers are continuing to rise and we are still fully in person. And Lynn says, a joy, which is a new bed, assembled it as a family and now sleeping much better. It's much better when you don't have multiple mattresses and peas in there, right? Sherry Stafford says there's a new transgender flag emoji in the newest iOS release. So, and Audrey Atherton says that for the holidays, our family has decided instead of buying presents to donate that money to food banks. A lot of people are in need this year. And Amy Miskell says, a joy, I found out this week that my COVID test from earlier this month was negative. And then I want to share a massive joy that this morning we actually have guests with us from Wildflower Church from Austin, Texas. All of you here from Wildflower, I have looked at your website, gotten to know you a little bit am a big fan of your minister. And I just want to say welcome. We are so glad that you are worshiping with us here this morning. We hope that this time and space gives you context of what else is happening in UU circles, and that we are all in this together. So welcome here with us. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're so glad to have you with us. So I now invite you all to a time of meditation and prayer. So I invite you to center yourselves, put your feet on the floor if you wish to settle in place, and take some breaths. And join me in the spirit of prayer. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, that which is larger than ourselves. We are gathered today in difficult times, in times of sickness, death, and fear, and anxiety in our world, in our communities, and sometimes in our religious communities. Grant us peace and patience to get through these times. Grant us resilience to hold our spirits together. We are at the beginning of a traditionally seen as a holiday season that is often full of family gatherings, crowded tables, and abundant food. For those who are having a smaller or perhaps even solo holiday this year, we ask for comfort and awareness that this will not last forever. We ponder our decisions knowing that there is no best answer. There is just the least worst answers. And while we mourn what we have had, we look to reinvent this time, finding new ways to find gratitude, to connect with loved ones, to release expectations, and to choose what has meaning for us individually, rather than having outside forces choose them for us. We remember all of those who do not have an abundance of food at their tables due to so many forces. We ask that you keep all safe who are gathering and hope that common sense and science will prevail. And for those who are sick, get sick, and all those who are caring for them, we ask that you bring healing and comfort. For the healthcare providers of all kinds, we send gratitude and rest and a hopeful end to all of this soon. For our Native Indigenous siblings who have suffered from so many generations of harm, we send a special blessing this holiday season. For a holiday that sometimes can open scabs and perpetuate harm, may we learn and remember whose land we are on and whose land our ancestors came from, and commit ourselves to doing more so that our ancestors can be proud. For all this and so much more, all that rests in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, we take a moment with our own silent prayers. Amen. Blessed be, and Ashe.
This song that we're about to learn is a song that's entitled "Somebody's Hurting My Brother." Now, this song was actually born in a town hall meeting around coal ash. And the meeting came about because Duke Energy was spilling coal ash into poor black and brown and poor white neighborhoods. After hearing testimony after testimony of people who were impacted physically and mentally by the coal ash, this song came as an inspiration of those testimonies. So I'll call to you, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on, and your response is, far too long. Yes, it's gone on.
Far too long.
It's gone on.
Far too long.
Somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on.
Far too long.
Now the end is, and we won't be silent anymore. We'll say that together.
And we won't be silent anymore.
Okay? And so we'll try the rehearsal version, which goes, oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on
Far too long.
Yes, it's gone on
Far too long.
I tell you it's gone on
Far too long.
Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on
Far too long.
together.
And we won't be silent anymore.
Now we're gonna put a little rhythm to this, okay? Okay? But we're gonna speed it up just a little bit. Not too fast. Ready? Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on.
Far too long.
Yes, it's gone on.
Far too long.
Tell you it's gone on.
Far too long.
Oh, somebody's hurting my brother, and it's gone on.
Far too long.
And we won't
Be silent anymore.
Yeah, somebody's hurting my sister, and it's gone on.
Far too long.
Yes, it's gone on.
Far too long.
Tell you it's gone on.
Far too long.
Somebody's hurting my sister, and it's gone on.
Far too long.
And we won't
Be silent anymore.
Did you hear somebody's poisoning of water, and it's gone on?
Far too long.
Yes, it's gone on.
Far too long.
Tell you it's gone on.
Far too long.
Somebody's causing of water, and it's gone on.
Far too long.
And we won't
Be silent anymore.
Have you heard somebody wants to build that wall, y'all, and it's gone on.
Far too long.
And we
Won't be silent anymore.
and we won't be silent anymore.
And we won't be silent anymore.
Just your voices start clapping, and we won't. And we
Won't be silent anymore.
last time all together. And we
Won't be silent
So, wasn't that great? I know that some of you don't want to go back in time a few weeks, but I'm going to take you back to that vice presidential debate of our election. Current Vice President Mike Pence and our new Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, whoop, whoop, and of course, the famous fly. It was surreal. Well, I mean, it was kind of on par for the course of the election and for this year, but it was also odd. And some people were cheering on the fly, and I don't think any of us remembered what they were talking about at the time. But after it was all said and done, What was remarkable to me was that Pence didn't seem to notice. I was actually pitying the poor person who had to tell him about it after it was all done. David Frum is a staff writer at The Atlantic magazine and used to be a speechwriter for George W. Bush. Right after the debate, he wrote a brilliant article entitled "The Man Who Pretended Not to Notice." It was the final paragraph that summed it up perfectly for me and created the foundation for this week's service. We saw a weird moment when a fly landed on Pence's snow white hair, and the vice president did not react at all. No doubt it's a conundrum what to do in such a situation. If Pence had shooed the fly and the fly had refused to shoo, well, that would have been bad. So he did nothing. And that doing nothing somehow in one powerful visual moment concentrated everything. It symbolized the whole Pence vice presidency, the determined, willful refusal to acknowledge the most blaring and glaring negative realities. Through all of the scandals and the crimes and the disasters of the past 4 years, Mike Pence was the man who pretended not to notice. And now there was a fly on his head, and he pretended not to notice that as well. In that moment, the not noticing became a huge metaphor for me, because I see the connection between that and what distinguishes Unitarian Universalists as religious liberals, that we notice things. Now, I am very clear that I am talking about those of us who are religiously liberal. Again, I affirm that there is room in our tent for all of those who are politically conservative. There is sometimes an overlap between those who are religiously liberal and politically liberal, but not always. And I also want to talk about this as liberal tradition, liberal religious tradition, which is a big category, and acknowledge that that doesn't always mean that it speaks for every single individual. But I want to have this opportunity to talk about religious liberalism in the largest sense. Unitarians and Universalists, before they merged in 1961, were always religious liberals. They were on the cutting edge of theology, moving our theological thinking forward, rather than staying in an orthodoxy or being focused on the past. James Luther Adams was one of the most influential Unitarian or Universalist theologians of the 20th century. He identified the 5 smooth stones of liberal religion. According to Adams, they are: first, religious liberalism depends on the principle that revelation is continuous. Our religious tradition is a living tradition because we are always learning about new truths. 2, all relations between persons ought really to rest on mutual, free consent and not coercion. We freely choose to enter into relationship with one another, as our new member class represents today. 3, religious liberalism affirms the moral obligation to direct one's effort toward the establishment of a just and loving community. It is this that makes the role of the prophet central and indispensable in liberalism. It's the idea of justice. And when I say prophet, I'm not necessarily talking about a single prophet like Jesus or Muhammad, blessed be his name. I am saying it in the prophetic sense. We are the prophets. The 4th is we deny the immaculate conception of virtue and affirm the necessity of social incarnation, which is basically saying we all have agency. Good things don't just happen, people make them happen. And 5th, Liberalism holds that the resources, both divine and human, that are available for the achievement of meaningful change justify an attitude of ultimate optimism. It's the idea of hope. So when we think about noticing, I actually think Stone's 3, the idea of directing our effort towards that just and loving community, and 4, the necessity of social incarnation, that we make change happen and are dependent, that's all dependent on us being people who notice. We cannot make change and work towards justice if we don't notice what's going on. And I think this is a huge part of what is dividing us as a society these days. Like, I mean, sometimes I'm feeling like I'm living in a totally alternative universe. Do you? Like, I feel like I'm seeing one reality and other people are seeing another. So I notice that we've lost 250,000 beautiful souls in this country to this disease. I mourn their loss. And I know that with every single one, I notice that there are people left behind who didn't get to say goodbye, who are still mourning, who may have not had funerals. I notice that our numbers are growing exponentially right now. I notice that the election, that by all reports was as free and fair as can be expected, is over. And there was somebody who won the election. I don't understand those who don't believe that that didn't happen. I notice racism in this country. I notice anti-Semitism. I notice homophobia and transphobia. I notice misogyny. I will not pretend it's not happening just to make people feel better or because it's too negative. I will notice it and name it until it doesn't exist anymore. I notice climate change. I believe the science. Like, I don't know, Texas, I know that you've all been experiencing some wild weather as well. Phoenix has as well. We see the polar ice caps melting, the number of hurricanes, and yet some people are disputing whether it's real. I notice the laws and policies that have real consequences for people. When you ban transgender people from the military, when you separate families at the border, when you ban people from Muslim countries from coming into the US, when you remove the US from climate treaties, I pay attention and I think about the ramifications of these collective actions. I don't do these things because I need to live in a negative world or I want to be a downer. I notice them because they are real. And I am, and we are people who notice these things. Paul Reiser is a more modern Unitarian Universalist theologian. He was recently the director of the Center for the Study of Religious Freedom, and he's written several books on liberal religion, most notably Faith Without Certainty, Liberal Religion, Liberal Theology in the 21st Century, which I highly recommend if you all want to dig in further into this. Reiser also lays out some of the tenets of liberal religious thought, including free religious inquiry, openness to divergent views, and autonomous judgment about truth claims, right? He wrote the book in 2005, but it feels like it's handmade for us now. Free religious inquiry. We are free to explore what has religious meaning for us. We did not ask our new members today to sign on to a specific creed or statement to believe. We have the freedom to explore what that is for us. Openness to divergent views. We say that revelation is continuous. Like James Luther, like Adam said, we are always learning and growing and becoming more of what we aspire to be. And then autonomous judgment without truth claims, right? This is one of the many reasons that I think that so many of us are feeling like it's difficult to separate the political world from the religious world right now. because what we see happening in the political world just doesn't make sense to us in our worldview. As religious, moral, ethical beings, we believe in growth, we believe in compassion for all beings, and we believe that random people can't just say what truth is. We get to affirm that for ourselves. So random people saying that science isn't truthful or vote results are not real or what we notice is not true, it just doesn't compute with how we have our worldview. We notice, we see it, we assert for ourselves what is true and not true. We don't believe a figurehead just because they say something is true. Believe me, it would be a lot easier for me as a minister if you did just believe everything that I said. But we know that we are inherently anti-authoritarian because it is our worldview to take in all of the information and assess for ourselves what has meaning and what is true for us. So here's the challenge of being people, religious people, regular worldview people who notice, is that we can't not do it, but that doesn't make it easier. It would actually be much easier to not notice and go on our merry ways, but many of us just aren't wired for that. I'm going to admit that during the days of the election anxiety, I often switched channels over to Fox News. I know, it was just to hear what they were saying. I was actually very heartened to hear that the numbers that I was looking at and the numbers that they were looking at were the same, but the commentary was pretty different. They spent a lot of time complaining about liberals. He was talking about political liberals, by the way. But I remember one random discussion where a commentator was making fun of liberals and comparing the different views of the world to buildings. So I'm paraphrasing. I went back to look for it, but I'm not going to search too long for it. So I'm paraphrasing, and he said, conservatives are like a shop in the mall. So politics is one of the shops. There are other shops like family and work, and church and hobbies, and politics is just one of them. So you can close that shop and carry on with your life just fine. It's just one of the many things that define the life of somebody who is conservative. What an overgeneralization, by the way. But liberals, for him, he said it was like the ground floor of a skyscraper. If you take out politics, then he said their whole foundation just falls down and the world falls apart. So I may debate that we don't have just as powerful and important relationships with our families, friends, religious communities, and hobbies. But I also mean, like, he's totally not wrong, because we are a people who notice. How convenient to be a people who can just close the shop door and not care what happens because you know that you and yours will be fine. It's honestly, he was defining a big sign of white upper class straight privilege right there, to just say, I'm turning off politics right now and I'm not going to think about it. It doesn't worry me right now. But we know that the policies and statements and laws make real world difference to people. In fact, most often those who we are trying to notice the most. So yes, we do react strongly as if the foundation is being ripped out, because we believe that human dignity, equality, and justice is foundational. It is the foundation. We notice who that affects, even if it might not be ourselves personally. There may be a time when we need to take a break from noticing everything. Over and over this year, I've been encouraging people to turn off the news. There is a big difference between being clueless and taking in every piece of information and opinion over and over again. We need to notice what is happening inside ourselves, as well as what is happening outside. We need to notice the status of our mental health, our physical body, our spiritual practices, our own emotional grounding. And I want to give a special shout out to those of you who have changed your Thanksgiving plans for this week, because you have noticed what the science says and you're making an intentional and safe choice. I know that this noticing has a very deep cost, either way. And I am holding space for you all this week as your long weekend looks different. So I'm inviting you and encouraging you to really notice it. Take the time to really notice what is most important. I would hazard a guess that it is not really about the consistency of the mashed potatoes or if you have the right china out. I think we have all noticed this year that it is about the people, the simple things like hugs, easy conversation, laughter, and feeling connected. As you are noticing what is happening in the outside world, make sure you are noticing what is happening inside you this year. What has been expendable and what hasn't? What has real meaning for you? And what was trappings of society's expectations, family expectations, or your own? What at your core is important to you? We are going to need to lock in these noticings, these observations, so that someday when this is all over, we can recreate our lives in a more meaningful and intentional way. And make sure that you notice all the things that you are also grateful for, the abundance that still exists in your life. I have delighted in noticing all of you through this. And Wildflower, I am loving having you here and seeing your comments and noticing you too. I see your triumphs and struggles, how people have come together in new and meaningful ways, how you have welcomed new people, how we have made our communities more like the world we wish to live in, even when that's not easy. May all of this noticing be true for you now, through this weekend, and as we get through all of these times together. As Mary leads us in We Are a Gentle, Angry People, I invite you to notice all the ways that we are united and diverse.
And we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
Bravo, Mary. Thank you so much for your playing and your singing. It was lovely to hear your voice. Before closing words, I'd like to invite you to all the coffee hours after the service. Wildflower, you are having your own coffee hour that was in your newsletter. We are so glad to have you with us this morning, and we send you and your community so much love and solidarity. UUCP folks, the coffee hour link will be in the chat, and we also have a coffee hour just for our kiddos and their families. So visitors, there is a Get to Know UUCP gathering right after service. We hope that you will join us. It will also be in the chat and on the final slide. And as a reminder, please check on each other. So may we embrace the fact that we as liberal religious people notice things. May we continue to notice how we are all connected and that none of us are free until all of us are free. May we notice the love, abundance, grace, and care that is around us every day. And may we notice all the ways that although we feel isolated, we are not alone, and that community is how we get through this. Amen. Blessed be, and Ashe. Go in peace. Go in love.